Asking yourself the right questions can transform your life. As a child, we do this very well. We ask almost 400 questions a day, and as an adult, we lose this capacity. We've been trained by school to find the right answer. So in this video, I will show you a way to find better questions, to find more interesting questions, and to solve maybe your problems in your life or find mental clarity. When I was 25 years old, I was in a situation where I needed to have good questions. Basically, I was living abroad with my girlfriend. We met almost 2 years before, and at that time I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to be a French teacher and basically find a job in a new country every 1 or 2 years. And I met this girl just before I left France to the UK. And after a year and a half together, living in the UK, she found her dream job back to France. And within 2 weeks, she left. And I had 1 month to think, 1 month on my own in this foreign country, thinking, what do I do? It was really sudden. In 2 weeks, she was gone, basically. So at that time, I wish I could have more questions to take a better decision. Why do we need questions? We need questions when we are in a mental fog, when we don't see clearly, when we have a problem, but we can't figure out how to solve it. There is a quote that is attributed to Einstein, but I'm not sure that he said it. That is that we can't solve a problem on the same level of thinking than the one that created it. So basically it means that we need to change our mindset. We need to change our minds to solve a problem. We put ourselves in a situation and we need to change ourselves to get out of it. And questions are tools to change your mind, to impose on your mind a way of thinking. So how to find good questions? Socrates said, I can't teach anything to anybody. I can only help them think. And he also said that wonder is the beginning of wisdom. Basically, he says that you need to question yourself. You are the beginning of everything you think. You have a subjective point of view on reality. So if you feel like you're stuck in a corner, if you feel you have a problem, maybe one of the reasons you can't solve it is yourself. Maybe the way you see things, the way you think, the way you feel, different parameters will influence the way you can solve or not solve the problem. And that's exactly what you think when you go to a friend. You go to a friend because you feel you can't solve the problem. And you go to a friend to have another perspective, to have another point of view. And it's really good. You should go to a friend, but you rely only on your friend's capacity to help you. And this system will help yourself better understand why you think the way you think. Every time you have a problem, every time you are in a mental fog, start questioning yourself. Basically, the one question you can ask yourself, why do I think what I think? Why, if you are afraid of making a decision, you can just ask yourself, what am I afraid of when I'm afraid of doing this? What are the reasons for my fear? And you can go through different topics. So if you start from yourself, it's your own health, your body. So your own health, maybe you're sick, maybe you're hungry if it's somewhere in the day, maybe you're tired because it's winter, or maybe because it's in the evening and that's not the best time to take a decision. You can start with your feelings. Maybe if you want to have a decision for your work and you just suffered a breakup, for example, you know you're not in your right mind and that's not the right time to take a decision. Other things can influence your point of view. Culture. If sometimes you need to take a decision, for example, if you're working with a foreigner or a stranger, maybe you don't realize that you see this person one way because of his culture, of your own culture, your own values maybe also. So all these things will influence your judgments, will influence your way of thinking, and will influence the way you can solve your problem. When you've done yourself, you need to focus on your environment. So how your environment is influencing the way you feel. One example for myself, I used to work in an open space. So I was working with people. We are like 20 people in one room, and I got used to it. And then I changed work and I got an office, my own office. And it changed everything for the good and sometimes for the bad, but I couldn't realize how much working in an open space was influencing my way of thinking, my way of feeling, my way of just doing things. And right now I have this step back and I realized that it played a big role on how I was feeling at the time. And the last two things is the time that I told about before. The time in the day. Is it in the morning? Is it midday? Is it the afternoon? Is it winter? Is it summer? How old are you? I mean, if you're 20, 25, 40, 60, the way you see life, the way you see things is different. And most of the time when you're young, maybe it's good sometimes to get some advice from an older person, just to change perspective. Being conscious of this is an advantage. It doesn't mean you will find the answer, but remember, we are here to find questions. So this will influence your way of seeing the problem. The last part is actions. You need to see the consequences of your actions, past, present, and future, and measure in every way how your actions will influence your life in every possible way. So when you've done all of this, when you're aware of yourself, when you question yourself, you can now make good questions. And we'll see how we can make new good questions, how you can change yourself or maybe someone else with different and more deep questions. So first, you need to realize that questions can change the way you're seeing things, the way you're positioning yourself with a problem. So when you're seeing a problem, you have different ways of seeing it. You can be a participant, so you will take action, or you can be an observer. So you take a step back and you observe your own problem to see another way of looking at things. And you can take a step back, or you can look inside yourself, introspection. Asking different questions, different kind of questions, you will make yourself or someone else change his mental posture. So we'll take an example to see what it means. But remember, if someone asks you a question to solve a problem, if you give him an answer, it's like giving him one thing to look at. But if you give him a new question, it's like giving him a new pair of eyes, a new way of seeing the problem. So if someone comes to you and saying, "I'm sad," you will ask, "Why are you sad?" And they could say, "I don't know, my grandmother died." And now you don't know what to do. And if you say, "How do you feel?" you will ask them to go inside themselves and explain even deeper how sad they are. So I think the first thing to say is, do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to change your mind? The point is not to make them forget, is to make them focus on something else. Right now they're in the mental posture of like seeing inside themselves, introspection. And you need to make them look outside of themselves, look at something else, focus on something external. So, for example, you could ask, if I were a child, how could you make me happy? The trick is to make them active, to make them change their mind themselves. So you make them participants, you make them look away, basically. And to trick their mind is to make them look for something else in their mind that is not their grandmother. So when you say, if I were a child, suddenly they are imagining something else. And then you can say, how could you make me happy? And suddenly, so they are in this other reality and they need to solve a problem for you. They need to make them brain work. And of course, it can't not work. I'm not saying it's magic, but I think that's the good way for them to think about something else, focus on something else. And that's the mental posture. They are not observer, they are not introspected inside themselves. They are suddenly focusing on something external, and they're suddenly thinking about a problem to solve. Another example for someone who's sad and doesn't know why, it's just feeling a little bit depressed, a little bit down. You could ask them, why do you think the reason for your sadness are stronger than the reason you have to be happy? And suddenly it's the opposite than the questions before. You make them look inside, be observer, because they don't know why they're sad. So you help them look inside and analyze themselves with another point of view, another way of seeing their own sadness. So if I summarize everything I've just said, you need to focus on yourself first and question yourself with a Socratic questioning, like doubting of everything you know, everything you are, and questioning everything. What hypothesis I make when I think that? Why do I think that? So you analyze everything, and then you need to change your mental posture. You need to either be a participant or an observer. You can take a step back, or you can just look inside yourself. So if you do this, if you have all these elements in mind, you will be able to find different questions. Your mind is weak, and it takes a lot of discipline to make exactly what you want to do. So when you ask people or yourself questions, you trick the mind, like a cognitive bias. You trick the mind, and it's really hard not to answer questions. For example, if I ask you, how could you today be closer to your dreams in the future? I hope this video was interesting for you, and if that's so, you can like it or leave a comment.